Hi guys, welcome back to this week's, I'm so used to saying that. Welcome back to today's video. Today I'll be telling you guys about my Netflix binges and basically shows that you can binge on Netflix. Duh, that's the title, Netflix binges. Anyway, I have quite a few, so a lot of these shows you've probably heard of or watched. But anyway, the first one I have is One Day at a Time, and it's basically about this Latino family that I suppose goes through the everyday normal thing of life with LGBTQ, dealing with a teenage boy, separation, parents getting together after a divorce, grandparents, all of that. So basically just normal life stuff. And there was a show, I think, made in the 90s that has the same, grown-up cast, but I think this is just a remake of that. I haven't watched the old version of it, but this version is really cool. So on Netflix they have 3 seasons and it's really good. The next show I have is probably, I can't say, but it's quite high up on the list of my favorite shows, and it's called Heartland, and there is 11 seasons on Netflix, and basically it's a show about horses, family, love, but it focuses on family and horses. It surrounds itself with one character in the beginning, but then it starts to circle around the entire family. But it's basically a show that uses a ranch and rehabilitates horses that are in need. If I explained that correctly, probably not. Anyway, there are 11 seasons on Netflix, and I highly recommend that you watch it. The next show I think everyone has heard of right now because it's a massive talk, but it's Sex Education. I could have finished this show within a day, but I had to finish it within 3 days because I actually, no offense to anyone, but actually have a life and couldn't, even though I do sometimes, sit in front of Netflix and just watch like 4 shows on repeat. But I couldn't with this, I suppose. But it's a really good show, and it surrounds itself with, I think his name's Otis and Maeve, and they start a sex ed clinic because his mom is a sex therapist and they think this is a good way to get money. Yeah, that's Sex Education. It's a really good show. I recommend watching it. The next show I have is Jane the Virgin. A lot of people have heard of this show, but then a lot of people haven't. Once again, it centers around this girl who gets artificially inseminated from this guy that she knew way back when, not realizing that she knew the guy, but it was like a whole mix-up. She was supposed to go to a doctor's appointment for, I think it was a smear test, and that the guy that she met previously and his wife went in to get, I suppose, the wife artificially inseminated, but got mixed up, and it's like a whole story of, I suppose, the unraveling of all of that. It's a really good show. I enjoy it. And I think Netflix has, 4 seasons. So the 5th season is coming soon, I hope, because I really want to see what happens next. The next show is The Vampire Diaries. Everyone has heard of this because it is talked about both positively and negatively. I enjoy this show. I can only really binge watch 2 episodes, unlike, I suppose, Heartland and Jane the Virgin. I can watch like 5 episodes in a sitting. I'm not a massive fan of The Vampire Diaries. I actually started the show within the cast starting to film the 3rd season. So I think I watched it because of the hype. I think I'm just trying to get, I suppose, it over with. I do know a lot of what happens, but I suppose you can't really just hear that, you have to actually see it with your own eyes. So I think that's why I'm watching it. The next show, probably everyone has heard of right now because I think it's the main focus of the LGBTQ+ community, and it's the show called Queer Eye. There are 2 seasons on Netflix and it is incredible. If you like home decoration, reorganization, and just really cool guys, it is definitely a show for you because I love it. And Anton is my favorite. I know they're all gay, but it's such a good show. I really recommend it. I recommend most of these shows, or all of these shows, because they're all really good. The next show, also a bit similar in terms of its real life, is £1 Million Menu. When I first heard of this show, I was like, oh yeah, okay, cool, they give people £1 million to start a menu. It kind of is like that. Basically, one episode is where they take 2 restaurant ideas and they give them, I think it's 3 or 4 days to test out that idea and see if it would actually work in the public. It's really cool. I've only watched 2 episodes because I think each of the episodes is an hour long, so it goes through that whole 3 or 4 day period, and it's really cool. So basically at the end of that 3-day period, they pitch their idea and their menu to investors, and the investors will decide whether or not they actually want to go into business and think this would be a really good idea. It's a really cool show if you like foodies and I suppose seeing a transformation as well. The next show I have isn't a reality show, but I suppose it's kind of got the same tone as One Day at a Time and Jane the Virgin and all of that stuff. It's called Greenhouse Academy. There is only 2 seasons on Netflix and it's a really good show. So basically these 2 siblings have a mom who was an astronaut and they attend the same school that she attended, but she passed away, and they go to the school to get education but also to, I suppose, uncover what actually happened, because they don't really know what happened to their mom. And it's a whole story of how they settle into this new school, uncover the story, and blah 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 blah. It's a really good show. I really like it, even though it's recommended for people between the ages of 10 and 13. I am a lot older than 13 years old. But anyway, it's a really good show and I enjoy it. The next show I have is very family orientated, and it's Fuller House. So this is the sequel to the show Full House in the 90s. A really good show. It's kind of got the similar aspect of Full House, except all of the 3 girls who were in the original are now grown up and have their own family. So it's their lessons of but giving their kids the same lessons that Joey, Jesse and Danny gave them as kids. So it's a really cool show. There are, if I'm not mistaken, 3 or 4 seasons on Netflix, and I binged the first 2 seasons within 2 weeks. It's a really good show. The next show I think is not really spoken about. It should be, and it has been, but not as much as I suppose Queer Eye or Fuller House, I suppose. But this is On My Block, and it's kind of the same as One Day at a Time, where it surrounds itself around, I think it's Mexican or Latino, and I know that's quite a big difference, sorry, but it surrounds a community rather than just a family. So it surrounds a community of friends on growing up in this environment, and I suppose what it's like to be in that community and surrounded by, I think it's like gunshots, fights, all of, I suppose, the nitty-gritty stuff that a lot of communities don't have, but a lot of communities do have. And I think this is just raising awareness for that and telling people what not to do. It's a really good show. There is only 1 season on Netflix, but it is a show that you can binge. I finished the whole show in 2 days, which I don't think I actually had a life back then, but I don't care because it was a really good show. They are bringing back season 2 soon, I hope. The next show everyone or most people have heard of, because if you have heard of the name Marie Kondo or Sparking Joy or spark joy or all of that stuff, you have probably heard of her new show called Tidying Up with Marie Kondo. I love this show because I love shows that surrounds itself with reorganization and redecoration and all of that stuff, because I don't know, I think it's a guilty pleasure that I think we all have of watching people redecorate and reorganize. I have slightly Marie Kondo'd my area of my clothes. It's not working, but I have slightly done it, and I'm going to continue doing it because it is a really good method. And I love the show because, like I said, I love reorganization and I love redecorating and all of that stuff. There is also only one season, but they're bringing out, I think, season 2, and that is something I am so excited about because I love it, and I love her, and I love her books, and blah 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 blah. The next show, every single person on earth has heard of this show, and it's Friends. Friends is basically a show that surrounds itself with a community and this group of 6 people, the best 6 people on TV, and their life through community, friends, love, life, children, blah 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 blah. It's a really good show. I think there are, let me think, there are 10, 11 or 12 seasons. One of the 3. But it's a really good show, and I think it finished in the early 2000s or late 90s, and it's still being spoken about today, and people are still watching it today like me. But it's a really good show and I love it. The last show I have that is not spoken about and should be is Titans. I am a hardcore Marvel advocate. I love Marvel and I wouldn't go around it, but I suppose I have, because Titans is a DC show, but it's a really, really good show, and it basically surrounds itself with, I suppose, these villains of the DC comics. But it's a really good show because it's also, there's an underlying message of family and a community. There's only 1 season on Netflix so far, but I, no joke, binged the entire season in a day. I highly recommend it. It's really, really good. And there are a few faces that you will recognize, like Minka Kelly, if you have watched Friday Night Lights. Yeah, but she wasn't even in there. You guys have another recommendation because I can't think. But I actually don't know if Friday Night Lights is on Netflix. Anyway, we're not talking about Friday Night Lights, we were talking about Titans. It's a really good show, I highly recommend it, and that's it, I suppose. But I will see you guys I won't see you guys next week. I will see you guys on Thursday. Bye guys.